Hello, everybody, and we are the Critiqueadors. Yeah, woo, yeah.
Woohoo!
Cue
Yes,
audience
sir.
applause and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
Today, we have watched a couple of movies of the same vein. We watched Birds of Prey, 2020 release, and Captain Marvel, both female-led superhero films of DC and Marvel, which are very much the same vein in today's culture. And Captain Marvel is a 2019 release, so they're in the same year, basically. To begin, Captain Marvel had a budget of 152 to 175 million. An opening weekend, I got 456.7 million dollars, eventually grossing to a grand total of 1.128 billion dollars. Now that is huge.
It's pretty
The
big.
reviews for it are pretty good. IMDb score is 6.8 out of 10. Had a 79% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, but a mere 45% audience score. Now, for Birds of Prey, which is noted that it's a rated R film, while Captain Marvel's a PG-13 film, had a 2020 release with a budget of 82 to 100 million dollars, but in its opening weekend got 33.2 million and coming to a grand total of $205.3 million, under its mark, so it's technically considered a flop. Now, the reviews for this, the IMDb score is 6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is a 79% critic score and a 78% audience score. Now, to begin, officially, with the discussion part, I guess, what'd you guys think of the movie? Or movies?
Oh, I was gonna say, I actually really liked them, to be honest. I did prefer Birds of Prey more, but that's just more of like the style of the film. I feel like Harley Quinn was, I think, just like a better, like, she's a more engaging protagonist than Veers from Captain Marvel. Even though like, her
100%.
story, yeah, her story was also very propelling, like Veers and her like trying to find herself. I don't know. I feel like both of the women trying to find their identities were very different, and that kind of made me enjoy each movie just a little bit differently. But it was still like I liked both movies.
Well, for me, kind of in the similar vein, I don't care too much for Captain Marvel. I think it's fine for what it
Mhm.
gives. There's still a couple fun moments, but overall, I just think the main characters kind of bland. But
Yeah.
I feel the polar opposite for Birds of Prey. I love that movie. I think Harley Quinn is a great lead. I think it's a really fun movie, and I like what it conquers because we don't see it that much, which is like the focus on different forms of love, which is like self love, love of a friend, um, and it's love from like a significant other relationship,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And I like what it conquers and like what topics are brought up, uh, which I don't feel like uh, Captain Marvel really does.
Yeah.
I agree. I think I feel like you hit the nail on the coffin when you said that the main character, Captain Marvel, was pretty bland, whereas Harley Quinn, um, is quite the opposite. There's also gonna be bias because more people followed Harley Quinn from previous movies than Captain Marvel because that movie was supposed to be like her sort of initiation into the whole MCU. Yeah, I gotta say, Birds of Prey. I like that. I just liked it better because of just with Harley Quinn, you never know what we're gonna get and what direction the movie's gonna go, and that's that's where I am at.
Yeah, I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I have to agree generally with you guys' opinions. I uh, I definitely like Birds of Prey more because Harley Quinn, and her attitude makes more sense with the character that she is, because a morally she's not a moral martyr, because she's obviously doing some nasty things. So when she cracks jokes while in a fight with people, it makes a lot more sense. Meanwhile, Captain Marvel is this all powerful, nearly Superman level of hero, and she makes all these little Marvel quips during these battles, and it doesn't make too much sense to me when she does that. Kind of like takes me out of the movie. And she also doesn't have that strong of a character arc in general. I mean, the movie was still enjoyable, the action sequences were pretty good, but, I'd say Birds of Prey just hits the nail way harder on, like, getting an actual story and with development that you can way more clearly see than in Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay, but, with our general reviews in favor of Birds of Prey over Captain Marvel, why do you guys think, the box office was so much more resounding of a success for Captain Marvel over Birds of Prey then?
Okay. I have this completely lined out because Marvel knew what they were doing. Okay. So
Absolutely.
they
That's true.
released Infinity War, which was the biggest selling movie, one of the biggest selling movies of all time, right? I think
Mhm.
it's still like it cracked 1 billion like in
Right.
like a month. It was like crazy. And it was huge. It was Marvel's biggest event. And sorry for spoilers, but they lose.
Spoilers after, like, 4 years.
Yeah, I know, after like the biggest movie of all time. But they lose, right? And at the very end, the last shot of Infinity War is Captain Marvel's little beeper and her logo. And then during the hiatus, which was just 1 year, they released Captain Marvel right in the middle, right before Endgame, and hinted in Endgame she would play this major part. And so they made it so everyone will have to see Captain Marvel to get Endgame.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And as you guys all know, because we all watched it, she's not that like there's nothing that really you need to know other than she
No, not
exists
really.
and she's a god
Right.
level
100%.
character.
In a way, Marvel catfished us. She was not really the deciding factor in the end game, you know? So
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
they completely knew what they were doing. It was a whole scheme. And I agree with you there.
Yeah, I feel like
And
you gotta think about, like, Disney as, like, a conglomerate, and especially, like, kind of milking the MCU, like, how,
Mhm.
Mhm.
like, they always, like, bring in new people, new heroes, and people do like those heroes most of the time, but at this point, you kinda feel like it's so oversaturated that, like, they kinda just threw her in there for, like, you know, just more money.
Actually, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
I feel like
on
especially 'cause she's, like, a female superhero. It's like you don't see a lot of female superheroes in, like, the MCU besides, like, what, uh, like, Black Widow or,
You
like,
got Black Widow,
like, Scarlet Witch.
Gamora, Scarlet Witch,
Yeah.
Nebula,
Or,
the
like,
but
the
like
Wasp.
yeah.
she
Yeah, like,
was
even, like
the first
yeah.
one to get their own movie, like to
Yeah.
be the first female led movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, the ratio just between, like, the, like, men and, like, women superheroes is kinda, like, very staggering. So, even, like, introducing one, especially, like, in, like, 2019, where I feel like, feminism has become, like, a more, like, accepted topic to talk about. 'Cause I still remember in, like, 2016, it was, like, all, like, the feminazi speech, and
Yeah.
it's, like, having, like, introduced her, like, they kinda, like I don't know, they kinda, like, just, like, used her gender to kinda just get more money. Like, it
Yeah.
didn't really do anything to the
Mhm.
plot.
And it feels like kind of like sleazy business to
Yeah.
me because it's like Marvel was 10 years old when Endgame came out, right?
Mhm.
And it, it's just crazy to think that like there was no female led superhero piece.
For
Like I
20
feel like
releases.
yeah, I feel like I would have been so keen for a Black Widow movie like
Mhm.
Right.
when like the MCU first like think of like a superhero like nuanced spy story. I feel like that would be
Right.
so cool and like
Yeah,
such a fun genre to play with.
they eventually
They
got to it too, but after the character canonically has died, and it was a
Right.
prequel that
yeah,
ultimately has 0 effect on
it
the
didn't
current
change
storylines.
anything, and all
Right.
it did was set up like the new Widow.
Uh,
Also one more thing, back to why Birds of Prey didn't make as much. If I recall, I'm pretty sure it was released the year of COVID or right before COVID hit,
yeah,
and
Mhm.
2020.
lots of major theaters shut down. I think, yeah, I just looked it up. It was released in February, and I'd say
Oh,
that's
that was right
It
before
was right
everything
on
shut down.
the cusp
Yeah,
of the
exactly,
downfall, yeah.
Mhm.
So they had a
and
shortened
that
theater run,
100% have, yeah, the short theater run had to have played a huge role.
along with its
Yeah.
R rating, so it's less accessible to the
Yeah.
masses,
Yeah.
especially superheroes, which are definitely a lot more targeted towards children.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting thing to talk about, like woke culture.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
when it plays into just female-led superhero. Honestly, actually, all superhero movies and television and everything now, people will throw out that word even though they don't really know what it means. They think like
Right,
anything with a female as a lead is woke.
right.
It's like,
People always view it as forced too, like, sometimes it's not forced, though. Like, you
yeah,
can tell
like
when it's forced or not.
how can a movie that is literally called like Birds of Prey and like one emancipation of one Harleen Quinzel, I think is like the full title, or Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
Like that's woke
right.
because it's a female led movie.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, more on that. Well, both of these are uh well, Captain Marvel, as you guys said before, is the first female-led superhero movie to come out of the MCU, and
Hmm.
it being the 21st release. Meanwhile, Birds of Prey is I think the second because Wonder Woman came before it.
Oh,
Hmm.
mm,
But both of these are naturally feminist films, or at
mhm.
least there are many hints towards it given in the plots of these movies. How'd you guys compare each portrayal of feminism to one another?
I would say that, for Birds of Prey, I feel like it was a little bit more, like, explicit, and the kind of like, the idea of feminism was driven into your head a little more. Granted, for me, I found it kind of a little bit annoying because I feel like you could really introduce, like, the faults of, like, being a woman in society without really drilling it into someone's head, like, "Oh, I'm a woman,
Hmm.
I could do everything." Like, we get it, you can, and it's like, it was kind of handled a little bit better in Captain Marvel, so it was a little bit more nuanced and subtle, but I feel like her like, in her feminism in Captain Marvel was really overshadowed with her just trying to find her identity. So in a way, it makes me just kind of appreciate the more, like, explicitness of Birds of Prey.
See, I would actually kind of disagree with that
Mm,
because I would say as a whole, Birds of Prey is a way more feminist based story because a lot of it is about how Harley has this agency to do whatever she wants when she's dating the Joker, but then she publicly declares by blowing up the nuclear plant
Base
with a
chemicals.
truck. Yeah, yeah.
right.
And then all of a sudden, now her agency is being taken away at every corner. Like now the hit list that she has created is all coming after her at once
Hmm.
because she is no longer
Mhm.
dating the Joker. And while I do agree that there are some explicit elements, like the villain, Ewan McGregor's villain, is very
Yeah.
obviously misogynistic, and it's clearly the dichotomy shines very easily to the viewer. But
Mhm.
I think it's way more forward thinking than Captain Marvel, which feels like
Yeah.
corporate branded feminism,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
tweet from the Marvel Twitter account saying, "Hey, women have rights too."
Oh my god, that
Right.
is, yeah. Like
It was just so subtle. Like, I
an,
couldn't.
another thing, like it's like in Birds of Prey, there's this thematic theme and just character theme too, that a lot of the women that we follow in the movie, they're they're not viewed as a threat, which makes
Yeah.
them a threat. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's like using that to their advantage, and it's a subtle thing. Of course there's like scenes where they obviously highlight it, but then they don't do it every 5 seconds, and they don't keep telling us it.
Mhm.
True.
And I really enjoyed that. I like, because honestly that's like the whole thing. It's like Harley Quinn, oh, because the Joker's no longer watching her, now I can fuck her up, right? It's like
Yeah.
she was never the threat. She
Mhm.
still
Mhm.
isn't a threat. And so everyone thinks they can go after her, and obviously she stays 2 steps ahead. The only time is like when they even get close is when she's like shit faced drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
And
they mentioned it too, that's like, she made up all the plans, but the Joker never told the public that. So it's like they don't really know that
Yeah.
she's the mastermind and everything.
mhm.
Oh, that's so true.
That's really
Mhm.
good.
I remember
I
that.
yeah.
Right.
And like Captain Marvel it definitely has less like blatantly like feminist scenes because it kind of mixes the identity issue along with some feministic like ideals. But like
Mhm.
there's that like short montage where it's like she gets knocked down but she gets back up again.
Oh
But
god,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
that is that
Oh
is
god.
classic
That
indomitable
is very
human
classic.
spirit. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like don't give up. It's probably the oldest story moral that has ever existed
Yeah.
of all time.
You have to fight through the pain. You have to rise above it. It's
Right?
like, wow,
Can I
thanks.
ask you guys a question? So, would you say a film with a female lead is a feminist film? Does that make it a feminist film?
It doesn't have to
Not
be.
No.
not naturally, but it's definitely poised to make it one with
Yeah.
the cultural like amount that we have of female led films, especially in this specific genre, where we
Mhm.
have I guess this makes 3 or I guess 4 because we have Black Widow now too. But there
Okay.
really is not that many.
Would you
So
consider WandaVision? No, that's a series. Never mind. Scratch that.
Yeah, and there's also Miss Marvel TV show and
mhm.
She-Hulk now, but again,
Yeah.
they're TV shows. I
Right.
one thing that's interesting to point out, and I can generally say just a female lead in a movie does not make it inherently feminist or anything like that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is indie cinema is like incredibly like way different because majority of the time it is a female-led character piece,
Yeah.
female-led
Mhm.
movie. But we see this time and time again in mainstream media and just like in just like huge blockbusters. It's like whenever there's a female lead, so many people are like not prepared for it. So they just call it like wokeness, feminism.
Mhm.
I like they already hate it before they even
Exactly.
see it.
And
Yeah, it's
that's
happened
kind
with
of what I
Captain
was going.
Marvel.
Sorry, I was gonna say that's where I was
Oh,
going
sorry.
with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
question. Like, do you think it's harmful that that a movie with a female lead can be seen as like feminist automatically? Do you think it'd be harmful? Do you think people would be like that's they're just trying to be woke, or maybe the female lead is just a female lead because it's best suited that way?
I would say it's very harmful because kind of takes away from the aspect of equality because
Right.
immediately if a woman is casted as the main role in a blockbuster film, then people are gonna always be, oh, it's just an agenda. No, it's not.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's not always meant to be an agenda.
Right.
That's
They
silly.
always say that it's an agenda. Yeah.
Mhm.
it's it's interesting to think about because it also halts criticisms because oftentimes people will be like, "Oh, that's just you just hate the movie because it's a female lead."
Yeah.
It's like no, sometimes a bad movie is just a bad movie. It doesn't matter who's in it,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
very
so
true.
it oftentimes takes on kind of like a mind of its own, right? And people fight and bicker about it, and it just
But yeah. I was gonna
But-
say you could kinda tell when people hate the plot versus just, like, hating the protagonist for being a female. You could tell though.
yes, yeah, that
Oh
is true.
yeah.
That is
Agreed.
very true.
Like that's why I kind of have a problem with Captain Marvel. Not that like I have a problem with it coming out because like God dang, did we need one?
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
the problem I have with it is that it's like whenever it like tries to display feminist like ideals, it feels like a corporate spoon feeding of like what is popular in the modern age.
I
Because
can
like
gen yeah, I
honestly,
just
people obviously feminism is definitely like a plus move right now because people are like, wow, women actually have rights. It's crazy, but
yeah,
and it just I feel like the corporate view of that is just like, oh, there's money in this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're gonna sell this as a product, and that's how we'll make it. So with these releases and more like She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Black Widow, etc., etc., how do you guys believe these releases and their performances within the industry will affect future blockbuster productions?
I feel like if anything, directors in the future will kind of look back on these movies and they will kind of like this like they'll kind of like sort out the criticisms. Like they'll like kind of tell like what not to do. So I feel like even when people watched Black Widow, like they were praising it and they were calling it good like a good story. But also has to feel like the backstory, especially like when it comes to like a female like superhero, matters a lot. Because like
Mhm.
Captain Marvel's could have been interesting if they had just like directed it a little better or just had like some sort of like semblance to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, it just felt like very straightforward, didn't really do anything. It could have been amazing and shocking. And
Yeah.
I feel like it was even a little bit when she was like trying to piece it all together. But like compared to like Natasha, like Romanoff, like she was a spy, she had everything like locked down. It was just a lot more of a compelling storyline and everything.
She had
Mhm.
everything taken from her childhood, her
Right.
like everything, and I think peop like producers and directors will look back on this movie and see what people liked and didn't like, and then try to use that to for the next time to
Mhm.
make something else. Because
See,
I don't know. Does anyone know if the Marvel is planning any major female-led releases anytime soon? There's a lot of it on the television, but not
yeah,
in theaters.
Yeah.
I'm
I was
not
gonna say, like, it's just like
sure.
She-Hulk now, but it's a series.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Eh,
do you think that, like, even, like, Marvel's gonna be gravitating more towards series now? Because think about it, like, WandaVision was very, like, female-led, with She-Hulk and everything, and they had a very compelling storylines, and, like, a lot of people liked those, but we obviously can't review them in detail because it's not a
mhm,
movie. Like, do you
Mhm.
think they're gonna gravitate more towards that for female lead?
Also, I don't know if you've seen Hawkeye, but Hawkeye is another example. Hawkeye,
Yeah.
where he kind of passes down the bow and arrow to like a female prodigy.
Kate
Um,
Mhm.
Bishop.
yeah, it's actually really fire. You should watch it. But
Yeah.
anyways, I think they do. I think they kind of did that on purpose. They kind of bleed like the whole. I'm trying to think of a way to say this. I think they purposefully made them TV series so that they don't have to pour as much of it into their blockbuster films. That's how I
Yes.
feel.
So it's like very, very subtly still same on the same idea as like keeping male leads for the more profitable endeavors.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
But I
Because
also say, like, the
She-Hulk
series
is
are
like
cash
one of
cows.
those. Yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I feel like the series are just also, like, cash cows. So, yeah, we
I
have, like, more episodes, like, more, like, watch per view, everything. But I'm not really sure, yeah.
I
Go ahead, though.
completely agree with you. No, I'm gonna enhance your point because that's completely
Mhm.
right. They're releasing 3 movies a year. On top of that, 3 TV series, sometimes 4. That's
Mhm.
insane. Like,
Right.
that's insane. Like, what they're doing with their characters. They're like, because like the MCU was so cool because it was building up to something bigger, right? It's a
Yeah.
huge event, and we witnessed that huge event. But now it's just like it just feels like they keep milking it. Like
Right.
it's just like, oh look, Daredevil's back. Oh look, we're gonna get Iron Man. Oh
Yeah.
look, like the
People talk about Marvel fatigue,
yes,
and I haven't like looked at any of the numbers to actually like confirm if it's a constantly happening thing, but based on like the release of Thor: Love and Thunder and also it not being critically acclaimed by any means whatsoever, I feel like the direction is seriously lacking.
I agree, but also the whole like phase 4, I think that they're
It's
I
Phase 5.
personally think that they're doing some pretty cool. I think they're slowly working towards some pretty cool things we just haven't heard or seen about yet because there are a lot of post credit scenes in these new movies that have been like they introduced Harry Styles, whatever that was about, as Thanos' brother.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Star Fox.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
uh,
the Eternals, I think that was.
yeah, it was the
Yeah.
Eternals.
Isn't it also, like, the younger, generation of the Marvel superheroes too? Like, with Miss Marvel, they're starting off with that or something?
Yeah,
Like, all of
it's
that.
like Young Avengers.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
There you
I think it's just very interesting, and I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on it. There's a lot of characters, female characters, in the MCU on the TV shows. We talked about Wanda, She-Hulk, um, Kate Bishop, who's the new Hawkeye, and then there's Ms. Marvel, um, Monica Rambeau, which is also a character that's going to appear in the new Marvel movie.
Mhm.
It it kind of just seems like they're just putting them, like you said, like in like the TV shows. I would assume they don't get as much views or revenue as the movies. It's like the movies are massive. Everyone talks about them. Everyone wants to see them. And it just, other than the Ms. Marvel sequel, I have yet to hear anything about a new project or anything with a female led hero.
Mm.
Same. I think ultimately, in order to go as big picture as humanly possible with this, I think it applies to a lot of like stepping out of traditional thinking takes forever. Like slavery was abolished in, I can't remember the year, 18 something.
64, I think?
Yeah, yet racism persisted for it's still present today. It's still present today, and like it's slowly stepping out of these traditional, very rudimentary mindsets where you can marginalize groups of people like that. While there is a massive agenda push for creating like an all-inclusive society, I think a lot of people are still subtly ingrained in those philosophies, very, very like subtly still, and it's gonna take forever to get out of it. It'll take like another 100 years in order to get a truly like male and female shared like screen time.
I
There's a
get
lot
it,
of
yeah, I even feel like though, like you say, it's like, I feel like it's still subtle, but I don't think so because think about like Andrew Tate, like even though yes, he like did leave the internet, a lot of like his effects are still left on the internet. Like you see a lot of like, especially like middle school boys, like you see them all fall into like the alt right pipeline. It's like a heavy thing in middle school. It's like I feel like Andrew Tate is like kind of I don't know, like, just making that misogyny, like, well, like, just, like, so, like, in your face, like, you just can't get out of it, like, right now. Like, on TikTok, sometimes I would scroll and it's like, people, like, little, like, interviewers on the street, like, "What do you think of Andrew Tate?" All these little middle school boys with their snapbacks on and everything, just be like, "I love Andrew Tate. I love Andrew Tate." And it's like, "Oh my god, like, what's going on right now?" It's
so
like,
like
it's
with
scary to see.
yeah. So
I
with
can't
that, you
believe,
believe
wow.
that it like I'm trying to explain
Like, prevalent
like
misogyny is coming back.
prevalent misogyny is coming back even.
Yeah,
So we're taking
Wow.
steps backwards when we
yeah.
should be taking steps forward.
Like, I remember, like, even seeing on TikTok, like, a guy in a college class, like, a discussion, like, type thing, like, he, like, just made a whole scene talking about how, women dress to impress men and, like, all of that, like, it was some insane rhetoric, and I'm like, "Wow." I don't know, like, it's just very prevalent nowadays sometimes.
I agree that it's prevalent, but I'm not gonna go ahead and say we're taking steps back because the fact of the matter is we did get this guy banned from all social media. We got him banned from YouTube. So I have to say that
Wow.
does go to show that we, for the most part, uphold the values and respect people, you know?
That's true, that's true. I'm not
That is
gonna
very true.
yeah.
I think a
It,
lot of people like to make absolutes, um,
Yeah,
but ooh, there will always be people out there, right?
mhm.
They will always be very misogynistic men. and there'll be always people who will have those beliefs. But more and more people are getting exposed to seeing that this isn't the truth,
Yeah.
and more people are being exposed to that. Now, don't get me wrong, the people who believe in these ideas, yes, they are very loud, but the majority are actually very quiet, and they
Yeah.
don't support these views, but they don't comment on them either. They don't fight them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's just important to note.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he did get banned, so majority honestly
True,
won
true.
in that case. But that's a specific case. In the grand
Yeah.
scheme, I believe that we are moving in the right direction. But I don't know. I think the pace at which we're moving is always
Slow.
going to be very, very slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I think that is all.
In conclusion,
Wait,
Mhm.
what's the Criticadors?
Criticadors.
The
Criticadors
Critiqueadors
outdoors.
be
Outro.
signing off. Watch Birds of Prey, and thank you for tuning in.